My name's Nick Sadler. I am 1/3 of a company called Chemical Wedding. We make iPhone and iPad applications for the film industry.
And my name's Toby Evans. I'm one of the other thirds of Chemical Wedding as well, and I'm responsible for all of the programming and design. Artemis, the director's viewfinder, Helios, the sun position calculator, and we also have a version of Artemis for the iPad that's called Artemis Remote.
And also Cyclopedia, which is an augmented reality application for location finding. The new application is called Toland, and it's named after a very famous cinematographer called Greg Toland, who was the man who shot Citizen Kane for Orson Welles. We began Toland as a project with the American Society of Cinematographers, and it is essentially a camera calculator that allows you to track all the variables that are available to you on a modern motion picture camera, whether it's film or digital. The difference between Toland and other calculators is a lot of other calculators have a point-to-point solution to calculations. You put in some numbers, you get a result. What Toland does is it reflects the system that you're using, so as you change a parameter, it shows how that change in parameter will affect other things within the system. By
adding a filter or changing the aperture of the camera, that affects the depth of field and exposure and a range of other things. So we try to kind of approach that in a kind of very whole way.
Okay, so this is Toland. This is what it's going to look like when it comes up on your iPhone, but we're going to blow it up to double size on the iPad just so we can see what's going on. Alright, so the way Toland works is, first of all, you have to start by establishing a camera which reflects your particular system. So you put the plus sign on down here. We'll pick a 35mm film camera like the Arri ST. We're going to run it in 35mm 3perf, any format you want. 178, 16:9. You have to add at least one film stock. In this case, we'll add some Vision 500T. There we are. We'll add it with an 85 filter because we're old-fashioned, and a set of master primes because we're rich. And then we're going to press Save Lenses. We're just going to make a selection of the lenses we have. We're then going to give this a title. So by pressing Edit Title, we can go in here. We can call this, I don't know, we'll call it Bob because Bob's a nice name for a camera. So this is the camera we're going to use. This is camera Bob, and we select that camera. This camera then loads all of the functions from the camera that you selected, plus the lenses that you're using inside the calculator, and a lot of the functions within it reflect the information in that database. We're going to start by looking at base preferences. On any job, you have specific characteristics for the job in terms of your circle of confusion, the sync speed you're running, which you give you a variety of sync speeds, the standard ones. We're going to set this at 2398. If you want to be exotic, you can give yourself a sync speed of anything you like. If you're completely insane and want to run your projector at 15 frames a second. We assume that you're not. You set a line frequency of 50 or 60 Hertz, depending if you're in Europe or in America or Canada, and a stop fraction, which is you can either do your calculations in half or third stops. So that brings us back to this calculator where we have, these are our base preferences at the bottom. Now any changes we make here to have the camera speed, in terms of maybe we want to run the camera at say 40 frames a second, our exposure is calculated as a difference between that speed and our base speed, which is standard in terms of making calculations. So we can see here that by running at 40 frames a second, we give you the exact difference in stop, and then we round it out to thirds. We round everything out to thirds because what we've done is we've selected in preferences that the third unit is the unit that we're working to as a fraction of a whole stop. We can change a shutter angle in here to anything we want, and it will just cumulatively show you your change in exposure. What we give here is exposure, the exposure duration, given these parameters, and we give a flicker-free, an HMI flicker warning down here. Now, if we were to set this to say 20 degrees, you can see that and run this at a bit higher, maybe running at 52 frames and a shutter angle of 20 degrees, you get a red flicker warning, which means that that you are definitely going to get flicker in the shot. We've got three states. We've got green, which means you're not going to get flicker, pretty much. Orange, which means you have to be vigilant because you might get flicker. There's a pretty good chance of it. And red, which you are going to get flicker, and you should start setting it as part of your art. we'll set this back to, if you want to reset everything back to your original parameters, you can go here to reset to base settings, and it'll clear all those values back out. If we if we run the camera at 60 frames a second, we have 150 feet of film on the camera. This indicator will tell you how long that magazine will run in real time, which is 53 seconds, and what the screen time will be, 2 minutes 13. So it gives you this information without having to do a specific calculation for it. It's done dynamically on the fly. Go back to the camera setting here. We can add filters to our setup, like we might want to add a polarizer filter with a 1 2/3 stop compensation. We can add as many filters here as we like. You just build up your filter list, and it'll do the compensation here to your speed. If you get a warning here, this means what you've done is you've actually taken too much exposure off your base stop, and you've actually gone 1 2/3 past the limit of what the lens will do. And we can correct this by adding base stop or changing stock, or basically removing a filter. So as you change base stop, this will reflect in here. In this case, what we're going to do is going to go back in here. We're going to kill that ND, and we'll find that that's killed our warning there. Once you've set up what your camera exposure is doing, you can then go into the lens section. So this is the depth of field section, where you first of all you have to establish what lens you're going to be using. So you can either swipe lenses down here to change lens incrementally. You can tap this and then choose from a picker. So let's start with a 50mm. Let's start with that. Select lens. By moving the scale around here, you can then set the principal focus. So for example, we want to set the principal focus at 20 feet. You can get it on the slider, or you can actually put the exact number in here. So we're happy that they're going to put the focus at 20 feet. We're going to add a focus mark in here. We might add one at that distance, and we might add one at this distance as well. Now if you see that green area there, that green area is the amount of available focus we have. All of these markers have to be green in order for them all to be in focus. And you can see we can't make all of them go green at the same time, so you can't get them all in focus. If we double tap the scale here, you can expand the scale and see that at least one of them is going to be out of range. What we can do is we can add some stop to this. So we can if we go to 4, for example, we can get a split that's going to work for all of those. And we can see our split's going to be at 17 feet. This number's gone red because there's now an exposure compensation which has happened in here with 1/3 of a stop. We can go into, we just tap this, we can then reset shift the base stop to compensate. We have to inform the DP that we need to shoot at 4 to make this all balance out and get the actors all in frame and in shot at the same time. Let's go back into the lens section. If you press here, this shows you our field of view calculator. Still at the 50mm, you can then run the scale up and down, and you can preview at what distance you'll get this kind of shot size. Or you can lock the field of view so the slider no longer works, and then change lens to look at what distance you need to be to get the same shot size on different lenses. This button down here is our logging feature. This enables us to take all the information that we've included on the previous pages and then add the name of the shoot, the director's name, the DP's name, and then put things like the scene number into this. So scene 23A, add the shot number, add the take number. When you log the shot and you come back into it, it automatically advances to the next take. At the end of the day, you can then preview all the logs that you've got for all the takes you've done. You can mark the ones which are good, and then email that all through to production. Oh, there we are. So that's Toland. As cameras become more sophisticated, we should be able to read directly what the camera is doing, a bit more like a monitor interface to that camera. So rather than changing a parameter inside Toland the application, when you change a parameter on the camera, we will soon be able to look at that change in parameter. Say for example, with a film camera you might change the speed from normal sync speed at 24 frames to 32 frames a second. If you initiate that change on the camera, it will automatically pop up inside the application. The third generation, which we already have some success in, is to actually directly control the camera itself. So you'll be able to set parameters inside the application and apply that to the camera.